welcome to part 2. We've just got to get the table put on. A few little bits of setup, a little bit of adjustment, and then we shall see this thing cutting. Spring washer, ordinary washer, and I've got to fit these underneath the table. Greasy. Oh, very greasy. I'll need to put an Allen key on that. Right, before I finally tighten this, I am going to make sure the table is square to the blade. I'll lock that off for now. I'm checking the alignment against the mitre slot rather than the slot in the table, according to the instructions. And oh, I've just moved it very slightly, but I am very close actually to being square. I just need to turn the table a little bit that way, and then tighten the screws. This is the stop bolt that stops the table when it's at 90 degrees. But if you ever want it to go very slightly past 90 degrees, past vertical, you can slide the end block out of the way. I find that quite a neat little feature. Whether or not I'll ever use it, I don't know. If necessary, you can adjust the zero marker on the table trunnion for accurate measurement of angles. This is the table levelling pin, and it goes in here. I gather it's to stop the table twisting, to make sure that the two sides are always in line. I find it hard to believe that a lump of cast iron this big could flex, but I'm not going to argue. So a little bit of adjustment of the rail needed. It's 49mm away from the table at this end, and it was 50 down the other end. So we've just got to take the rail out slightly. And I have to ensure that the rail is parallel with the top of the table, which it clearly isn't. A small thing that lets down the toolkit that this comes with is, I think this is a 16mm bolt and this is a 17mm spanner, but it just about works. I'm going to have to lower the rail a little bit to get this gap a little bit less. The gap will never be zero because there's a nylon washer up this end to, in fact here as well, to help the fence slide across the table, but I do want it less than that. I'm happy to report, after all the fiddling with the guide rail, the fence is perpendicular to the table. Yay! I really like the adjustment mechanism of the fence. It's very simple, and I believe it pays to have the fence just very slightly away from parallel, so that the wood isn't squeezed between the blade as it goes through. That's probably about right. This knob locks the fence in place against the guide. The whole block is actually double-sided, so if you want to mount the fence the other side of the blade, you can swap this knob over and the fence will quite happily go against this piece here. It doesn't come with a hose, the hose is an extra, but I like to have good dust extraction. Trying not to stab myself with the screwdriver. Looks like the blade's already been adjusted for tracking, because to me the tracking looks pretty good. That's just rotating it by hand. And the tension has been set correctly for the 16mm blade. This adjustment moves this whole block backwards and forwards to get these guides lined up with the blade. We don't need to do that here because it's all been adjusted prior to shipping. The rear guide unscrews with a knob at the back, and you can't really see what you're doing with the upper block, but it's best to just push it forward to touch the blade and then just back it off very slightly and tighten. The upper bearing shouldn't rotate when you rotate the blade, and again the side guides should be close but not touching. And the same goes for the bottom bearing. First cut won't be anything special, I just need an offcut. I'm not even going to mark this, I'm just going to push it through. I don't have a mitre block to guide this through, so I'm just going to have to do it by hand. I hope I don't bind it. This might seem an odd thing to cut. I think it's beech. It's been lying around for a while in my garage, and I'm wondering whether there's any spalting inside it. I'm curious to know what state it's in, so let's find out. is a beautifully smooth cut, and remember this is with the factory blade. I do have extra blades with it that should in theory be a better cut, and obviously for ripping you want a wider blade with perhaps fewer teeth, but that's beautifully smooth. I think I might carry on and just saw me some beech. There is a little bit of spalting, not quite the spectacular colouring that I was hoping, but I might be able to use that in a decorative way somehow. Beautifully smooth and even. Remember this is the factory blade, and I do have better blades for ripping. One final thing, it comes with a resaw bar. The idea being if you've got something that isn't quite straight, that won't sit against the fence and is likely to twist and bind, then use the resaw bar, and it allows the work to move a little bit as it goes past the blade. So I'm just going to try that out now. I'm going to do that again because I realise I've got the resaw bar too far forward. It needs to be here next to the blade. Of course the wood's still wobbly, but it's given us a good quality veneer. A useful tool. Note the warning about not running with the door open. I don't think you can, because there's a micro switch. Let's just try that, shall we? I should perhaps mention that the machine can run at 2 speeds. It comes set to the high speed, but by changing the band to the nearer pulley and retensioning with the wheel out here, then you can change to a slower speed for cutting metal. Well, that went remarkably well. That is a really thin veneer, and let's face it, that's the mark of a good bandsaw. The quality of cut on that is remarkable, and as I understand from the salesman, that is not the best quality blade. Now, that's a £1,000 bandsaw. Why would you not put your best quality blade in a £1,000 bandsaw? But Record Power are not alone in this. There are a lot of other manufacturers that do the same thing. I am assured that the replacement blades from Record Power are best quality, and I will be putting these through their paces in a later video. I have a lot of lumps of exotic hardwood, Babingo Wenge. The block of Babingo you will have seen in the previous video, possibly this one. It's in the left hand corner of my garage. So I'll be cutting that up into back and sides for a guitar, possibly a neck. Need to come up with a cut plan to make best use of the board. But this is a 3/4 inch blade, a 3-skip raker. So this will be the blade for resawing tough pieces of wood. So this will get a pretty good work out, and that will be in a future video. I should have mentioned in the previous video, DVD. I haven't watched this, but I'd recommend you watch it. I've actually attended talks at the Tool Show and at Yandles on this very bandsaw, and so I had a pretty good idea of how it all worked before I started. But go check out the DVD. Oh, also, bundles. I'm fairly sure I don't think this is a limited time offer. I'm fairly sure if you buy the blades and the wheel kit, and there's also a mitre attachment that I didn't buy, but I'm pretty sure you get a good price on them if you buy the whole thing together with the bandsaw. So I'd recommend that. And that's it really. I've got lots of lovely pieces of spalted veneer. Not the most spectacular. I've seen better spalting, but it was a good first test. So we'll leave it there, and we'll see you in the next video. Go subscribe, click like, go check out my Patreon page, and I'll see you later. Bye.